If you want to become a network administrator, it's essential to be well versed in Active Directory. However, many people find Active Directory to be a challenging topic. In this video, I've broken down Active Directory and simplified it to make it easier to understand. But before we answer the question of what an Active Directory is, we need to ask ourselves, why do we need Active Directory? Imagine you are an IT professional for a company with 1,000 employees. Your company has recently purchased 1,000 computers, one for each employee. As the IT professional, you're tasked to set up and manage user accounts and computer policies for every single computer. But managing individual user accounts and settings on every single machine will be time consuming, inefficient, and prone to inconsistencies. The solution will be to implement Active Directory to centrally manage user accounts and computer policies. With Active Directory, you can create a single user account for each employee in the domain. This allows employees to log in into any computer on the network using the same credentials while enforcing inconsistent rules, permissions, and securities across all the devices. With that said, we can now answer what Active Directory is. Think of an Active Directory like a system that manages a computer, that manages a company or an organization, and it uses a database to store all the information about that company or organization. In a simple term, think of an Active Directory like a database, but more. So, the logic of active, okay, in simple term, think of an Active Directory like an office settings. An office has a security guard who authenticate every person accessing the office. An office consists of employees of the company. An office in an office is where the records and information about the company or employees are stored. To access record for an individual to access a record or a resource in a company, that individual has to have authorization to that particular resource. An office has a manager who sets rules. Relating this to Active Directory, an Active Directory has objects. Objects in an Active Directory can be a user, can be a computer in that Active Directory, or a group of users or group of computers. An Active Directory has a database. This database is used to store information about that company. To access the resources stored in a database in an Active Directory, the Active Directory performs authentication for a particular person wishing to access those records. That's why I said an Active Directory is like a database but more, because it performs the authentication. It also performs the authorization to resources in that database, and it is also responsible for setting rules. With that said, let's look at the components of an Active Directory. An Active Directory has a domain. A domain is basically like a logical group of network objects. An Active Directory has a domain controller. A domain controller is just a server which stores the database for the Active Directory. It also performs authorization to resources stored in that database. And if a user wishes to perform a directory lookup, it is the domain controller which does the directory lookup for the user. An Active Directory consists of objects. An object, any, anything in the Active Directory is an object. The computer in the Active Directory is an object. A user who is authorized to access the network is an object. A group of users or a group of computers in Active Directory are objects. An Active Directory also has a schema. A schema is like the blueprint for the Active Directory. It defines objects that and attributes for those objects. With that said, let's look at the structure of an Active Directory. In the upper level, an Active Directory consists of a forest, then a tree, then a domain, then organizational units, then down to objects. Let's define each of the term. A forest is the entire Active Directory. In a real world example, a forest is the company. Then under the forest, we have a tree. A tree is a group of related domains. Think of a tree like a division in a company. Then going down to the domain is a logical group of network objects. So in real world, a domain is a department in the company. Think of it can be the HR department, the IT department. Then a domain has organizational units. An organizational unit is a container in a domain. These containers are used to organize objects in that domain. So an object is basically what we manage in the Active Directory. Like in Active Directory, you can manage a computer or you can manage a user. That's it for Active Directory. In the next video, we shall look at installing Active Directory in our system.